So, you want to sound like Peter Gabriel? Well, I might be able to help you with that. Maybe. Peter Gabriel is my all-time favourite singer. There's something about his voice which has always connected with me. I find it hugely emotive, powerful, fragile, by his own words, needy, but also warm, kind of fatherly, and I guess kind of manly. Ooh, Peter. Someone once described it as like melted chocolate poured over gravel, which I'm happy to go with.
I'm begging you, when rain coming down, when rain is coming down, when rain is coming down all over me, I see it. When rain coming down, when rain coming down.
So this video is not about Peter's production or his miking style, although there are some really good videos which do go into that, which I've linked to in the description. This video is about his raw vocal sound, so his style, how he makes that noise. I've been listening to Peter Gabriel's voice for about 20 years, and during that time I've definitely absorbed a lot of the characteristics of how he sings. Now obviously the first rule of sounding like Peter Gabriel is be born Peter Gabriel. Only he will ever have his exact vocal tone and style of delivery. However, there are some things that he does which have contributed to the way his voice sounds now. And I think given time and practice, these are certain things which anyone can do to mimic that style and end up sounding a little bit like him. So number one, it's all about the English accent. Peter Gabriel is obviously English, and therefore he sings with an English accent. Not all English singers do. A lot of famous British rock acts, in trying to break into the American market, do sound quite American when they sing. But Peter's always retained this English delivery in his singing. That's not to say that he sounds posh, that he sounds like Noel Coward or something. It's nothing like that, it's just a very English sound that he makes. You can hear this in the pronunciation of certain words, so it's the way, for example, he says can't instead of can't.
I want you close, I want you near. I can't help but listen, but I don't want to hear.
It's noticing these things and holding on to that kind of English delivery which makes him sound quintessentially Peter Gabriel. 2. He spent a lot of his career singing kind of out of his range. So if you listen to Peter talk, especially in interviews and things like that, he's actually got quite a deep voice. It's more of a sort of bass baritone or something.
I had a place at film school because if I wasn't a musician, I would love to have been a film director.
But when you hear him sing, he's often singing at tenor pitch. In fact, he's often singing notes that even tenors find uncomfortable.
Only love can make love.
He's been doing this ever since the early days in Genesis, and he still does it to this day. And he can still get away with it.
Only love.
Although not always. So I'm not suggesting that to sound like Peter Gabriel you should spend your entire singing career singing way out of your range. It can do the voice a fair bit of damage. Remember that time that Elton John had to go for surgery for vocal nodules? However, over time, singing out of his range does seem to have eroded his voice a little bit, and that's what's contributed to this husky, gravelly effect in his voice. That's not the only thing that's done it, but it's a big factor. Now, you can train your voice to sing a bit higher. It's like any other muscle. The more you sing high notes, over time the better at it you will be. But one thing it will do, if it is out of your range, is it will kind of wear the voice down a little bit. And that's definitely part of Peter's naturally husky tone. Also, something else that seems to have happened through singing out of his range is through, I think, eroding and damaging the vocal cords slightly. They seem to have thickened up over time. So if you listen to Peter back in the Genesis days, his voice is definitely thinner.
Looking for someone.
But if you listen to it in more recent years, if you're thinking about records like Up and Scratch My Back, his voice has become very rich and thick. Now, what I think his voice has done is through kind of being punished by singing quite high, it's sort of developed and thickened. You often don't hear this with a lot of singers. Singers who, when they're young, have thin voices, often when they're old, still have thin voices. Peter, on the other hand, his voice has become kind of really thick and rich, and it's a real pleasure to listen to it now in his live gigs.
Taking it down, taking it up this room down from the rain down, running in. Oh, before your bone is gone.
Thirdly, and I think this is maybe the most important element of why Peter sounds like Peter, is that he sings with what is sometimes called a pushed vocal style. Now, by pushed, what we mean is he's just pushing a lot of air past his vocal cords very quickly. Now, when a lot of people sing, particularly professionals, opera singers, trained singers, they sing from the chest, from the belly and the chest, in what's called chest voice. This produces quite a full, confident sound, often with a lot of vibrato. Peter doesn't do that, however. Peter sings more from up here in the throat, and he sings with a lot of air being pushed past his voice. And that's what gives him his slightly breathy, again husky quality. It's also why he tends to run out of breath when he sings a lot. Now, that's also because he tends to fling himself around the stage. He often goes around on a bike, and he's now like 74 or something. But it's also because he's pushing a lot of air past his vocal cords really quickly. So, take for example the chorus of Red Rain. If you sing this in chest voice, it sounds a little bit like this.
Red rain is coming down, red rain.
If, however, you sing it in pushed vocal style, it sounds more like this.
Red rain is coming down.
So you can see how Peter's getting his voice, and also what that push vocal style is doing is that is also wearing out the voice pretty quickly, so it's giving it quite a husky, gravelly tone. So this is something I've been trying to do over time. I think I've just mostly unconsciously absorbed his vocal style, and now I can't sing in anything other really than a pushed vocal style. I mean, I can try operatic, but I have to really think and try to do that. And so what I find is that increasingly, especially in the past few years, is that gravelly husky tone is starting to come out a little bit.
I'm bathing in red rain coming down. Red rain is pouring down. Red rain is coming down all over me.
I quite like it. I hope it stays. So these are the three things that I think you need to do if you really want to sound a little bit like Peter Gabriel. Number 1, try to sing with an English accent. Number 2, practice singing out of your range, wear the voice out a little bit and practice hitting those higher notes. And 3, sing with a pushed vocal style. Move into that aerated vocal style rather than singing from the belly and from the chest. I can't guarantee your voice will thicken up and get lovely and rich over time, but you might start to sound a little bit more like Peter. Good luck.
Divided into black and